Hello everyone and welcome along to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. We are bringing you a live Cheltenham Festival preview from the George IV pub in Chiswick, and we have assembled a tremendous panel. Alongside me, as always, for the Racing Weekly podcast, Steve Ryder, who has been in wonderful tipping form all through the National Hunt season, but he needs some reinforcements. So we've strengthened his hand by bringing in Willy Twiston-Davies, who, of course, was a top-class rider. He is now assistant trainer to his father, but he will very soon be joining him on the licence. Pat Cooney from Bet365 will have all the betting news for us throughout the 4 days of the Cheltenham Festival. And Gavin Lynch is over from Ireland. He has included the Racing Weekly podcast on the numerous previews that he has done in the build-up to the Cheltenham Festival because he says this is his favourite. We will work out whether that's true or not later on. Before we get into it all, very important to tell you about an offer from Bet365. It's never ordinary at Bet365. That's why they're offering a super boost from 10 a.m. every single day of the Cheltenham Festival. T's and C's apply. Pat, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, the super boost, and they will apply to horses very much at the top end of the market. It won't be, we're going 16 to 1, about an 8 to 1 chance, so you can begin to imagine kind of some of the star names that will be super boosted at various points on each of the 4 days at the meeting. So well worth checking the site, and as I say, these are going to be very well-known horses that we'll be taking our chances with.
Okay, let's keep it sharp and let's keep it entertaining for the folks, and let's kick off with the Supreme Novices Hurdle, the first race of the festival, and of course, as we will say no doubt a few times in previewing races for the festival, it all depends on what Willie Mullins and his team decide that they want to do. Ballyburn has been the big talking horse for a number of weeks about which race he's going to run. And Gav, I'll start with you. It appears that if he's going to miss this race and head to the Galahad's, as a consequence, Tully Hill has been back. How do you see it?
Without him, it's a very, very open race. I think he can get 4 to 1 the field in places. Tully Hill, his jumping the first day in Punchtown over 2 mile 6 was probably 2 out of 10, and it being kind. The next day was probably 4 out of 10. The last day was 6 or 7. So his jumping is getting better. He's got a very, very good engine, as we saw last year in the bumper in Punchestown. I suppose the good thing is that, well, Ballyburn, if he goes the other way, he'll be odds on. It's a very open race. You can get each way value. Maybe Tully Hill, I haven't had a bet in the race really yet. Mystical Power, very, very similar form, beating Jigoro. Again, has slight jumping issues. His mum wouldn't be too proud. But a very, very good engine. So quite an open race, but I'd imagine one of Willie's would probably go off a bit short, or maybe 5 to 2, and it could be Tully Hill, I'd say.
I was going to say his mum really can't speak though, can she? She had her own issues. Okay, Pat, what's the story with the market?
Well, it's all a bit of a mess at the moment. The best advice I can give everyone is just wait for the day and certainly get to 10 o'clock on the Tuesday, because certainly from our point of view, we'll be betting to, very, very low percentage on the race, best odds guaranteed, and at least the dust will have settled there. So, I think with the first race of the day, you take your chances as bookmakers on the basis you've got another 27 races to pull it back. We would have loved the favourite to turn up for the race, because we would have probably gone top price and taken our chances with him. As things stand at the moment, I think it much depends on what Paul Townend rides. But from my own point of view, I quite like Slade Steele, who I think Henry de Brom had said he'll run wherever Ballyburn doesn't. So that brings him back into this race, and on his times and official form, he's bang there with him. So maybe Slade Steele would be the one to catch my eye. But wait till 10 o'clock on the day, I think.
Okay. Willie, it seems that everyone's ignoring the handful of British horses, and whether it's a Jericho de Rapino and whichever horse that the Willie Mullins team go with?
Yeah, I think the race is very straightforward for me. Depends what Willie runs, obviously. If Ballyburn sends him, I think he's very, very good. Mystical Power, I'd definitely take on. Like, you can't be winning in May and July and having one run in January. If you're that good, you won't be running at that time of year. As much as Ireland gets wet rain and the ground's safe, you just don't run at that time of year if you've got a champion. So I can count him out. The one horse I've always liked is Nick Ensign's horse. I thought he was underwhelming last time, obviously, but the first 2 times I did see him, he's by Choix de Nord. He was really impressive with point to point. I was actually there. I think he's a really, really impressive horse. If Nicky's got him right, it's the yard doubts and that, but I think at his price at the minute, it's a standout for me.
As someone who has a bit more of an idea, hang on, Willie, with the training, where do you stand? What would you suggest to people who like horses from the Henderson team over the 4 days of the festival? How would you approach it?
I mean, I really, really respect Nicky. I think he's gone probably through the worst week of his life because I was just saying outside a minute ago, if I had a horse in a 0 to 100 that's scoped dirty, I'd be worried about running him in 10 days' time. And that's just because I'd talk to the owner and say, look, he's in a dirty track wash, give me another week. But there'll be another race for you in 2 weeks. With these championship horses, there is one day that you've got to try and get them for. So what he's gone through...
horses at Cheltenham, though, with the worries?
I'm afraid not. I'd be really against most of them. But that horse has shown us so much class. And people can say, oh, Nicky's horses want good ground and they don't go on heavy ground. It's no different to going to flat yard and saying they go on soft ground, heavy ground. It's like Venetia Williams. They say, oh, her horses love soft ground. She had a torrid time about a month ago where she couldn't have a winner and it's heavy ground. So there's no excuse. Yard form is a big thing. I never used to believe in it. But at the start of the year, in September and October, we had 17, 15 winners, and all of a sudden you go down to 5, and nothing's changed. We're bringing out new horses. It's yard form is a big thing, and that's not for changing, I'm afraid.
Okay. Steve, your assessment?
Yeah, I'd give Jericho de Repene a chance. Obviously, he had the form boosted with Lump Sum winning the other day. A strong pace in a Supreme would definitely suit him. I've done the Wise Guy double of Tullyhill in the Supreme and Ballyburn in the longer race, which we're now calling the Gallaghers. So yeah, I think if he comes here, he'll take a fair amount of beating. I do like what he's done this year. Obviously, he got beaten on his first day, but a fair amount of Willie Mullenses were getting beaten at that time. The likes of Galopin de Champ, Ballyburn himself. So yeah, I'd excuse that. His jumping was much better at Naas the other day, and he jumped slightly left-handed, which is obviously no negative switching from a right-handed course to a left-handed course. He reminds me a lot of Classical Dream and Appreciate It, who made all in this race. I think that probably influenced what the decision of where Willie Mullins and Paul Townend will ride him, because I don't think you can run both Ballyburn and Tullyhill in the same race. I think they'll just take each other on at the head of affairs. I'd be against Mystical Power as well. Galileo's have a poor record at Cheltenham. The last winner was Windsor Park in the Neptune, and even that race has changed names 3 times since, so that shows how long ago that was. So yeah.
So the last Galileo to win was Galileo the horse, trained by Tom George, who won. Sorry, that's just my boring. That's caught everyone by surprise. I'm assuming you all remember the horse Galileo who won the race. Yeah, not entirely my idiocy. Yes, Polish Galileo.
I'd actually disagree with Pat. I don't think I'd wait till 10 o'clock. I think with the Ballyburn kind of the vibes of where he's going to go, I'd actually take the 9 to 2 ante-post on Tullyhill now rather than waiting to 10 a.m. on the day, because I do think there's still a bit of juice in the prices in the Supreme currently. So yeah, Tullyhill 9 to 2 ante-post rather than the no run or no bet market on Bet365. I'd definitely be back in Tullyhill.
Just myself and Steve were having a chat earlier on, and we were saying that it's very, very important to always have a look at the pace in each race. And there's a chance that Tullyhill might get a solo in this. Firefox made the running 2 runs ago against Ballyburn. The last day he was held up in the Lawlers over 2.5, maybe to get the trip. But if Tullyhill, he's probably got the best engine in the race. If he gets a solo and jumps well, he'd be very difficult to beat. You just wonder will that happen. But I think he's got a good chance of certainly being joint leader over the first 2.
Okay. For what it's worth, when I spoke to Ruby the other day, asked him about who would win the Supreme. He said, well, it all depends on what Paul Townend wants to ride and whether he wants Ballyburn to go for the Supreme or whether he wants Ballyburn to go for what was then the Bear in Bingham, is now obviously the Gallaghers. And in the end, at the end of it, all the chat, when we were doing our tipping for the end of the wrap-up, said, Ruby, your best selection on the Tuesday, he said Tullyhill in the Supreme. So that sort of summed it up for me.
Obviously, Mark Walsh will ride Mystical Power and probably on Tullyhill. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to preview the second race on the card on day 1, and that is the Arkle. We've spoken about pace, so I'm going to come here to Willy to kick things off because Master Chewy Matata might run for you, and if Matata does, Matata, I think, is best from the front.
Yeah, we ran 2 very nice horses in this race. Matata's a bit of a tearer, always been a problem to train, likes to go flat out everywhere. I mean, Darrell's been tearing his hair out about him a long time, but he's a very naturally gifted horse. His run the last time, obviously, Liberty Hunter beat him, looked like he was probably the winner going to the last. He's nearly favourite or very well fancied for the Grand Annual. He ran a very good race at Lingfield. I think we probably made more use of him. We might have beaten JPR1. There's not a lot between them at all. And as for Master Chewy, he's beaten a Grade 1 winner at Kempton over Christmas and was nearly brought down in the first. He could write off his last run. I think both our horses actually overpriced. I wouldn't put a line for either of them. If Darrow ride Hunter's Yarn, it's a very, very tough decision for Sam which one to ride, Master Chewy or Matata. I really wouldn't split them at home. Two completely different horses. One very, very positive. One has to be ridden quite cold and get there at the last. I think the Arkle should be coming to England because I wouldn't be having a bar of Elea Thompson found a 50 to be an Arkle winner. I think it should be coming home to England really. But I'm no use to you. I couldn't pick between our two. They're literally inseparable. Master Chewy had to give £5 to JPR1 and Matata, and he was only 8 lengths behind after they get nearly brought down. So between the two of them, it's a very tight call. But I think that one of them should definitely be there or thereabouts.
I thought Master Chewy might be the one because I thought a bit of stamina in comparison. If they go that pace, I can see him finishing off quite nicely. I thought he might be. But Pat, the prices for those two are certainly, you can back both of them and have a nice return if one of them hits the boards.
Yeah, both of Willys are 25 to 1 at the moment, and as things stand at the moment, it's 7 to 2 the field, and if they all hold their ground, I suppose that's what will be on the day. But since Marine Nationale came out, the one horse that has been popular over the last 2 or 3 days is Quilixios of Henry de Bromhead, and of course he's got good course form round here before. Can you see any of these challenging El Fabiolo, John Bond next year for the Champion Chase? I think whatever wins this will be quoted certainly at double-figure prices for next year's Champion Chase. So it's not a particularly deep race, and I think as things stand at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me on the day if it was 4 to 1 the field. It's an unusual opening day at Cheltenham. Normally, traditionally, the bookmakers lose on the first day, lose on the second, get a little bit back on the Thursday, and then we have the Albert Bartlett comes and that kicks everything off in the day 4, and we end up narrowly in front. So we're penciled in normally to get beat 4-3, 5-2 on day 1 as bookmakers, but I think we're beginning to like our chances on the opening day, and I haven't felt like that way for a while.
All right, Gav, what do you think of Willy's assertion that this race might be coming to England?
It could be because
Britain. Sorry,
it's a very, very ordinary Arkle. JPR1, who's the fastest jumper in the race, he'd have a chance too. There seems to be a lot of pace in the race. We mentioned Matata. You also have Quilixios, and you have Found a 50, so who jumps a little bit to his right. So it's going to be a very, very fast run race. If the ground is decent, now it's not decent at the moment, but it's a long time till Tuesday. I'd hold my powder dry, but I think my mate Mozzie has a chance of 10 to 1 each way. Wins at Cheltenham in an ordinary contest back in October on good ground. And then I said to a couple of friends, and on the website I do, that lads, I think I found the Grand Annual winner. I said I want him to run at Christmas, finish 5th of 8 in a Grade 1 perhaps, go to the Grand Annual off 145, and there we go. And I believe that might have been their thoughts too. So he runs at Christmas. I believe he wasn't fully fit. He ran on really well to be second, never put into the race really. Behind Found a 50, only a length and a half. So he has a rate now for the Grand Annual of 150. So they're going to go here. The quicker they go, the better his chance. And also, but he will need decent ground. He's a little bit like Banbridge later on in the week. But if he gets reasonable ground, I think he could definitely run into a place anyway.
Okay. Willy, you've got a...
Well, again, decent ground. It's something. It'll be soft, definitely. It'll definitely be soft ground.
It's at the moment it's soft heavy in places.
Where we are, we're 8 miles away, and we had more rain last night. There's no chance. It's soft heavy in places now. You can dry as much as you want. You have much blue skies as you want. We've got more rain at the end of the week a little bit. It'll be a soft ground festival, and if it does dry to soft, good to soft, it'll be tacky, horrible ground where a good ground horse won't go on it. There's no chance.
Because it's an amazing place to dry.
It'll have to be a horrible horse or very classy. It'll be soft, good to soft in places at the best, and then when it dries for 2 days, the ground becomes like glue, and then horses, even soft ground horses can't handle it. They won't be able to pick their feet out of it. You'll have to be a specialist horse, and especially in Cheltenham, no matter racing we get on it, it'll all be opened up. You'll have to be a very special horse. Maybe Friday or Thursday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, no chance. You'll have to be a very specialist horse to handle any ground. Our fields are still up to water, and where we are, it's brash land. The water runs away and it goes. It's not like we have puddles. We still have puddles. Cheltenham will be even worse. It all run off Cleve Hill down into Cheltenham. I looked at the turf tracks this morning with Dad, and we spoke to John Pullen. It's soft heavy in places you are not getting.
Okay.
Sandowns, not bad for drying, was heavy soft in places this morning with days dry. It'll definitely be soft ground as a Tuesday. They might try and move it whatever they want, but Dad and I will go down Saturday. I'm telling you now, it'll be soft ground.
Because it's an amazing place to dry, isn't it? It's like I was there a couple of years ago the day Sir Gerhard won the Ballymore, and it lashed rain all day. Do you remember that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 40 mils they got that day. And the next day, or the day after, they were running 2 mile hurdle race in 4 minutes, and I just couldn't believe it. But then I accept that the water table is very high. So
Yeah, had lucky enough to go to Fergal O'Brien's on Monday, and it was the same. I mean, he said that his quote was, "We haven't had rain like that in that area in his lifetime." So extraordinary. Steve, how do you see the Arkle?
I'd give a chance to Quilixios, to be honest. I like Henry de Bromhead as a trainer for Cheltenham Festival, but he's actually been given an uncharacteristically poor campaign for an Arkle horse. He made a winning chasing debut at Limerick over 2 mile free. Go back and watch it. It makes a terrible mistake at the last. Rachel does well to sit on, and then obviously wins from there. Didn't stay 3 miles at Punchestown the next start, but then was much better last time. Dropped back to the minimum trip at Naas, beat Safara and Mr. Policeman that day. Obviously, as Pat said, has previous festival form, won the Triumph Hurdle. I thought he was fair enough at 7-1 ante-post.
would you have any worries about him jumping slightly right like he did at Limerick? Rachel was very clever the last day in Naas. She kept him all the way to the outside. And Henry said afterwards we were worried about him jumping to his right, but he actually jumped straight at Naas. So just something to bear in mind.
It would, but this is a poor race, isn't it? Like, you could go an extra 2 furlongs and maybe still win this.
Okay. I think Master Chewy can get placed in the Arkle. I think each way he's a decent bet. Fingers crossed. Yeah, hopefully it's not the last time we do that. Let's talk about the Ultima Handicap Chase. Obviously, race 3 on day 1 at the Cheltenham Festival. Currently, there's a Willie Mullins horse, unsurprisingly, near the top of the market. Pat, what's the story here, do you think?
Well, it's all about meeting of the waters, which J.P. McMahon has bought. He seems to buy every Paul Byrne horse, doesn't he? I'd like to Paul Byrne to buy me, and then he could sell me on.
Not sure that's going to work.
But it's amazing how the public latch on to things like that when JP buys one.
Yeah.
He's got Grand National entries. He could end up at the end of the week as a clear favourite for the Grand National if he were to win this. And he's the right type of horse for the race. Ante-post wise, we laid the Goffer of Gordon Elliott. He's not run for 5 months. His form figures look a bit ropey, don't they? P4858. But he's been well supported, so he's clearly better than his form. So you got those two who will be strong, and I think with Meeting of the Waters, I think he'd be very, very well supported on the day. Who knows, Willie might have had 2 winners by then. I quite like Chianto Classico of Kim Bailey. I was surprised he's only on 10 stone 12, a mark of 143. He looks like a typical Kim Bailey type of horse for this particular meeting, so he'll be the one that catches my eye, and I wouldn't be in a rush to back him because Meeting of the Waters will continue to shorten up. And on the day, if it's a big field, you may probably get 5 or 6 places each way as well. And I think he's bound to be in the frame.
Right. Steve?
Yeah, ironically, mine, I like 2 horses for this, and they finished 1-2 in an Irish point-to-point in April 2021. One of them's Stumptown and the other one's Chianti Classico. I do like Chianti Classico. Obviously, has a similar sort of profile to Happy Go Lucky from a few years ago for Kim Bailey. Has a handicap form of 3 wins and a second. That second came to Phlegmatic at Kempton, and Phlegmatic is a proper Kempton specialist. He would probably be more of a win selection for me, being an unexposed novice. The second is Stumptown. Now, he obviously has to overcome the stat that the Irish are 0 from 38 since 2006, but he hasn't got a profile like an Irish horse coming into this. He finished second in the Kinmure last year behind Angel's Dawn. The pair of those finished 5.5 lengths clear of the third. And then he's actually won at Cheltenham this season, won at New Year's Day by 5 lengths. He's only £6 higher here. He looked a completely transformed character that day in first-time blinkers, has course form. Well, that was on heavy ground that day. So from what Willie's saying, we're obviously going to have soft to heavy ground on there. This is his only entry. Like I said earlier, Bet365 have an ante-post and a no-runner, no-bet market up currently. He is 12-1 ante-post, and I think that's a great each-way bet.
Okay. Willie, what's your thoughts on this?
We've got a lovely horse. If he got in, which I don't think he was, we've all been called. He's been transformed completely. Fibrillating heart. He wasn't far behind Broadway Boy and Flooring Porter. He'd completely come to form as of the spring. He'd have a great chance if he got in, but it looks very unlikely. Apart from that, I agree with exactly what Steve said. That Chianto Classico looks very well handicapped off his weight at 10 stone 13. I'd rather not back an Irish horse in this race. We've got such a strong record in it. It's going to come back to Britain, but what horse it'll be, I don't know.
Yeah, finishing second to Phlegmatic at Kempton is not a bad run when it's at Kempton, especially. Gavin, how do you see the Ultima?
It's a very, very open race. Rishi, the Goffer is £2 lower than last year. Finished 4th in the best renewal we've ever seen of the Ultima. I think it was 149 last year, 147 this year. Heat of a squeak. Won a stable staff race there a couple of weeks ago in Punchestown, and they got an excellent ride that day to win. So obviously he'd have a squeak. Definitely Chianti Classico, massive eye catch the last day in Kempton. Wide for Harry, wasn't knocked about, shall we say, and Kim Bailey is very good at this type of horse. Meeting the Waters, totally right to be favourite. Presumably Mark Walsh will now ride. 1-0 to 116 in Cork after beating 27 lengths twice in Galway. That was a very poor contest in Cork, but to go from that to win a Paddy Power Handicap Chase is an incredible change. It'd be like you playing cricket for Sunday League and the next thing you're playing for, who's your county? Essex?
Sorry, obviously.
Sorry.
I'm a Man United fan, so obviously sorry.
So how would you go playing Sunday League through to playing for Surrey? Would you be alright?
It would never happen.
So to go to win a Paddy Power off 130, kept wide by Danny, absolutely bolted up in the end in a good race, and I'm told it's improved a lot since. Off 145 in Ireland, gets £2 extra, 147. Very, very unexposed, and obviously has to have a 6th run to qualify for entry, which we'll have on Tuesday. JP has bought it. I'd be between him and Chianti Classico.
Okay. I'll add my weight to Chianti Classico. As I said, the run behind Phlegmatic I thought was a terrific effort. And just going back to what Gavin said about the bride, Harry Cobden wasn't particularly hard on him and kept him wide all the way around. It was the perfect prep for Cheltenham, I thought. So Chianti Classico for me. Now, before we get into the Champion Hurdle, it's time to tell you about Oddschecker's free-to-play bingo game for the Cheltenham Festival. When you play the game, you receive a bingo card full of horses racing on each day at Cheltenham. You'll then win prizes as your horses win or place in the races. The top prize is tickets to the Grand National Festival. All you need to enter is an Oddschecker account, so sign up or log in and play for free. And now we come to the big race on the opening day. It is, of course, the Champion Hurdle minus Constitution Hill. But we have got State Man, and we now have Iberico Lord added to the party. It seems likely that Irish Point is also heading to this race. Gavin, how do you play it?
I'd say Irish Point will go here. The same owner has Tiupu and also Bob Ollinger for the entry hurdle, so why not go here? I don't see any reason why. Chatting to Steve, I'm not stealing his thunder. He has an interesting. We're having a chat over dinner earlier on.
Don't steal his thunder.
No, I won't.
Yeah.
But he has a very interesting point to make. He's a fantastic horse. He's won 8 Grade 1s. He shows up every time. County hurdle. Didn't travel well at all last year in the Champion Hurdle. If that's a worry or not, we'll see. But I don't see how Irish Point can beat him. Lossiemouth would give him a massive race if she was in it, but she's not going here, I don't think, which is a pity. Getting £7, who would you back? Lossiemouth or Stademan?
Lossiemouth, yes.
Yeah, you'd be getting a bigger price. I probably would back her as well. She looked fantastic the last day. What's going to run on to be third, I don't know. Iberico Lord, why are they supplementing that horse? I'm not sure. To me, at the very best, they can finish third. So, Stateman for me, not much value there, but he's just so consistent, he deserves one.
I imagine that they're encouraged by the ground as much as anything else with Iberico Lord.
Yeah, I think that must be it. They obviously think that the softer ground on the Tuesday rather than the slightly better ground on the Friday will obviously then benefit him. But he has a stone to find with Irish Point on ratings and £25 to find with State Man on figures. He's got a mountain to climb. Thanks for Gavin for the build up.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
So I know State Man has obviously won a county hurdle and finished second in a Champion Hurdle, but I'd just be slightly concerned about those 2 runs and how well he's performed when he's travelled from Ireland. He's looked completely invincible when he's running in Ireland, but I'd have the slight question mark about him travelling or Cheltenham as a track. Now, you'll point to the fact that he won a county hurdle easily, but he had £25 in hand that day. Obviously, was in receipt of weight from First Street, and he only beat Zanahir by 4 lengths when finishing second in the Champion Hurdle last year. If I want to be backing a horse at 1 to 3 at the Cheltenham Festival, I want to have no question marks. And that would slightly go into the back of my mind in that the horse that I'd take him on with is Irish Point. I do think he is the only horse that could possibly beat him. He's won his last 4 starts, looks really, really progressive. And if this does turn into a stamina test, then obviously he can go that. He won over 3 miles in the Christmas Hurdle at Leopardstown. The only thing with backing him each way, he's currently 7-2, no run or no bet, and there is obviously the option of the stayers, would be the fact that he is going to be ridden to beat State Man, so he could be vulnerable to closers late on. But I do think he genuinely does have a chance to beat State Man if he does underperform. So, yeah, I wouldn't be putting State Man into your multiples anyway.
Interesting thoughts. Willy, tell me about whether or not you think there's some validity to Steve's point about State Man.
No. Well, yeah. I've never thought of it like that, but State Man's been obviously an unbelievable horse. If you wanted to ride one, you'd ride him. And if you wanted to train one, you'd train him. I've never really thought about that, because all you do is see the win in the second. I haven't looked into depth of that. All I thought is looking at the card of the horses, if I could find one to, you could have a little each way fun on or back to be in the place. I'd definitely have a few quid on Zarek the Brave. I followed the horse off a cliff from the word he came over. He looked brilliant first time out when he went to Willie's. They had a little injury. He's won a Galway hurdle. He's battle hardened. He's a very big price to be in the free. When you think things like Xana here have done it, he's definitely a better horse than Not So Sleepy. Lossymouth's not going to run. I think he's better than Pied Piper. He's a massive price to be in the free, and that's what I'd be looking at. Someone like him on the exchange, not to win. He could nick a few quid, but I'm not say that next to Pat. So.
Pat, you take on State Man?
Likely win a yes bet. No, I'm reminded of the old phrase that he's 5-2 on. If you've got the 5, you don't need the 2. But I think I might be able to be of use to people here tonight, because Nemean Lion is owned by one of our directors, and I was with Kerry Lee. We sponsored up at Kelso, and this horse loves soft ground. He's quite fragile. He's actually entered in the Stayers race as well as the Champion Hurdle. And Kerry had a decision to make a couple of weeks ago whether she was to go for the 2 mile 7 at Haydock on heavy, or go to Wincanton over 1 mile 7 on fastish, goodish ground. And if anything, he put together a really impressive performance, and she was really surprised by how well he won. And he just appeals to me without the favourite markets, those kind of novelty markets. Take State Man out the equation. On soft ground, yes, he has a bit to do, but because he's so good on soft and he is at the top of his game, he might be overly priced. I could see tipping lines going for him, betting without the favourite in those sort of novelty markets.
Okay. I remember when he ran that weekend that Steve and I were talking about. He was entered in that race at Wincanton over 1 mile 7 and half a furlong. He's entered in the Stayers race at Haydock. He was entered in a 2.5 mile handicap as well, wasn't he? Carrying plenty of weight. So versatile, but with deep ground testing conditions, might be a shout. Yeah. State Man, obviously, he's going to take all the beating in the Champion Hurdle. Let's talk about the next race at Cheltenham on the opening day, and it is the Mares Hurdle. And obviously, we've kind of already alluded to her in a similar vein to State Man. Gavin, it looks as if this is a point and shoot for Lossiemouth.
Yeah, you get the vibes from David Casey and Ruby Walsh that Lossiemouth is a long way ahead of Ashrow Diamond. And I'm sure the syndicate that own Ashrow Diamond don't agree with that. But the only doubt you have is she's never run over 2.5 miles. If, as Willie said, the ground ends up horrendous, will she definitely stay? She's got a lot of toe, as she showed the last day. When she ran last year's Triumph Hurdle, she ended up in front, coming down the hill. She was, the race fell apart. She was very keen, whereas this year in the International Hurdle, she was able to sit behind a fast pace, and she's got loads of toe, loads of boot. That was 2 miles 1 on the new course. This is 2.5 on the old track, which is easier. The only doubt you have is, will she stay? I think she will, and if you're doing multiples, I'd put her into them.
Okay. Pat, what's your take on this?
Well, it's going to be interesting what Willie Mullins tells his jockeys in this race, isn't he? He can hardly tell the jockey of Ashrow Diamond and Echoes in Range that, look, go like the clappers and test the stamina of the favourite. So it's going to be interesting, the team talk there. She's just different class to me, Lossiemouth, and if the trip is the only hope we have of getting a beat, that doesn't speak very well for us. But I think of all the shorties on the opening day, she's the one for me.
Well, Steve's actually done some excellent stats for this tonight. He's pointed out 7 of the last 8 clear favourites have all been beaten in this race, and Willie Mullins hasn't trained the winner since 2018. So there might be a bit of value just in looking at the statistics for the Mares Hurdle. Where do you stand on this race, Willie? Do you think it's a straightforward task for Lossiemouth, or are you worried about the extra stamina that she might require?
I think it's very straightforward for Lossiemouth. As a whole, as a racing fan myself, I don't think this race should be here. I love mares. I think they deserve their chance. There were plenty of graded races throughout the season.
Yes.
But this race here, Lossiemouth should be running in a Champion Hurdle. Ashrow Diamond could easily go elsewhere. All of a sudden it's a Willy runs procession. Love Envoy can easily go elsewhere, runs in Grade 1s all year. I think this race doesn't stand for the festival. I don't think any racing fans are getting jiggy about this at all. Lossiemouth will go and win, but it's sad for racing. I think this race probably shouldn't be a novice handicap with 24 runners would probably be more exciting for the punters and bookmakers.
Yeah.
I just think it's sad for racing this. Mares races are brilliant, but put them on an Aintree when there's not Grade 1s to run against the males. There's chance for them all year long to run in good races. I just don't think this should be here.
I'm with you, and obviously there'll be people who
sound a
say...
bit bitter and negative, but
some people say, well, Honeysuckle won last year, and she gave one of the great stories.
Well, Fantastic Verb, she won a champion hurdle. It didn't improve her worth as a broodmare. It just gives the connections. I love Peter Maloney. I like Henry Bromhead. Great, they got a great send-off for the mare, but that just for that reason should it be there? She's won a Grade 1 champion hurdle. She just retire her then. Doesn't need to run another mare's hurdle, and you're not going to gain any more money or any pride of it. You just have a Cheltenham Festival winner for nothing. Quavega winning 5. Wouldn't we love to have seen her running a world hurdle or a champion? And Annie Power and Benny Dazoo. I just think the race is pointless. If you've got a really champion mare, they should be running against the boys. They get an allowance. That's why it's there.
But she wouldn't have won the champion hurdle last year. She would have finished 3rd or 4th. And for her to win the mare's hurdle last year against Love Envoy was a brilliant story. The parade ring went mental afterwards. She'd won 4 races, and even the race where she beat Benny Didieu on her first mare's hurdle was a brilliant finish. Remember turning up the inside, etc. Robbie Power left the gap, and that was him finish with Willy. But
stop getting so emotional. We're trying to watch fucking decent racing. You're getting too emotional about it.
Emotion. If I'm a Liverpool fan, I like Jurgen Klopp. I like emotion.
Yeah.
I'll remind Willy of this when we preview the Mares Novice Hurdle and saying it's a bad race.
Yeah. But what's your take on this?
I think Lossiemouth is going to prove hard to beat. I just loved how she settled in the international hurdle. She got really lit up last year in the Triumph hurdle coming down the hill. And yeah, I wouldn't really have that many concerns around her staying the trip. The one I'd give a chance to at a big prize would be Tell Me Something Girl. She's really interesting to me at around sort of 20 to 1. She won the Mares Novice here in 2021 by 5.5 lengths, and then was brought down in the Mares Hurdle 2 years ago. They sent her chasing. She didn't seem to like that. But she was much better when she was second to Zarat the Brave, who Willy gave a shout out for the champion hurdle last time. She's got good Cheltenham form, and I think at 20 to 1 she could probably run into her place.
Agreed.
Okay. It's such a shame that the Henderson horses aren't in better form, because I'll give a chance to Marie's Rock.
Every time, Rish.
Well, she's not let me down. She has won at the festival, and she was back to her better form last time, but I just can't trust it.
Can I just say as well, if it's heavy ground, Lantry Lady would be slightly interesting. She's obviously only had 2 starts for Henry de Bromhead. The only concern with that is the quick turnaround. She ran at Clonmel on terrible ground. But yeah, if it did come up heavy on the first day, she'd probably have a chance at the price as well.
All right. The penultimate race on the opening day is the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. There's an interesting horse here. I'll let Willy talk about, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Les Loyotes.
Leslie Oates or Leslie Oates.
Leslie Oates. Okay.
No, she goes nicely. We've had a lot of trouble sort of getting out. She qualified for the race from France, Galloping Arcana. It's been a bit of a mix-up. She is qualified now. Nick Luck interviewed me on the day the weights came out and asked how'd she go, and I said a bit negative. We hadn't had her long. It's the style of training France to England is completely different. They're on flat gallops, they're on wood chips. We've got a big steep hill, 2 hills. We don't do any of that nonsense. We just want to get them fit and hard and ready to win 3-mile chases. Anyway, the last 2 weeks, last 10 days, started to shine. And last Friday, had a Jordan Naylor worked and I rode against her. And all of a sudden thought, sorry, language, what's that? And funny enough, it was her. She's gone from looking like a skinny, leggy filly to putting a bit of weight on and come around to our way of thinking. I actually starting to believe like she might have a squeak. But I've said to everyone, this is the truth. She will be. Her big aim is April for the 4-year-old only Grade 3 fillies race. But Cheltenham will be a sightseer for her. But I actually wouldn't be surprised to see her run well now. Her complete mood change, coat change, weight change is. But I just wish we'd have her 2 weeks earlier.
What price is she, Pat? Have you got something there for us?
Well, whatever she is, she might be a bit less by the time this goes out tomorrow. Will she get in the race?
She definitely gets in.
Yeah.
No, definitely gets in. But just, I said, I'd love to have had people like Willie Mullins and Paul. They have them and you give them time. But the whole plan was she was a cheap mare. It's a Cheltenham Festival runner, and then we've got a target for the future, so that's why she's running. There's an Irish fella called Cyril Crowe owns her. He's bred a lot of decent horses, and he's down by Peter Maloney by Rathmore Studies down by there and 6 Mile Bridge. But he was so keen to buy her. She's half sister to a Grade 1 winner, and it was quite exciting to buy her, and everyone keeps asking about her. And it was, the first 2 weeks I kept being really sad, going, "No, sorry, she's no good." But all of a sudden, actually, she's working really well now. And actually, I do fancy her to run on and run a nice race. But obviously, April will be a main target, so there's no point defrauding the public.
Well, take note. Take note.
She was 33 to 1 before I just placed a bet on my phone.
I want to ask you, Gavin, about Lark in the Morning. How many times has Lark in the Morning been a non-runner on the day in the last month?
3 anyway. Yeah. And they declared the horse 48 hours before on heavy ground, and the ground was heavy, and they said no, not running because of various excuses. But look, I accept that they didn't want to take the heart and soul out of the horse a few weeks before Cheltenham, but they probably knew what the ground was beforehand. You'd have to wonder, Lark in the Morning is a big eye catcher. He's in off a very low rating here, I think 122 maybe. His jumping in Leopardstown wasn't brilliant. His jumping the last day when he wasn't, shall we say, given a hard time in Punchestown, his jumping want to be better, but definitely he's fancied and definitely he's well handicapped. Batman Girac has a chance, 2 runs in France, couldn't go right-handed in a graded race when went off favourite at Fairyhouse in early December. The last day in a graded hurdle at Christmas. Again, not knocked about, which can happen quite a bit when you're talking about the Boodles. Was last 2 out. Mikey O'Sullivan finished on the bridle in 4th or 5th. Was only beaten 5 lengths. Got a rating here of 133. Has a chance. It's a very, very open race. It is every year. If the ground comes up very, very soft and Tuesday, as Willie said, would have a chance. The other race to keep an eye on is the race that Eagle Fang won at Naas, has given you 4 of the last 5 winners at this. It won the race, and Nara, who wasn't knocked about, finished 4th for JP. Look at you, go on and on about the Boodles. It's a very, very tough race. You deserve an award back in the winner of this one.
Yeah, I think that the way to work out the Boodles, who's the best disguised horse in the race, who's got through to the day without being spotted.
And the last one to mention is Valentino of 126. Okay. Originally got a rating in France of 136, 126. That would want to run reasonable just to help, say, Sergino's form for Friday, etc. Mm-hmm. So that's the only real crossover between English and Irish 4-year-old form. Yeah. So, look, the Boodles is the Boodles.
What do you like, Steve? Something hidden that we haven't seen?
You've seen him quite a lot, to be fair, but he's a massive price, and that's Balboa. He's currently 40 to 1 with Bet365 for this. Then he's had 6 runs over hurdles, 1 win, 3 seconds, and 2 thirds. He was previously trained by Milton Harris and Tony Charlton, finished 2nd behind him, Broad and Fasser. At Cheltenham, so he's got a bit of Cheltenham form. Finished 3rd behind Liari in the Scottish Triumph Hurdle, the Bet365 Scottish Triumph Hurdle. Might I add, Pat?
Thank you.
He was in receipt of £5 that day. He's now in receipt of £12 in his handicap, and is 4 times the price of what Liari is. The thing in this is, like Gavin said, the like of Lark in the Morning still need to jump better than what they previously had. Balboa's a prominent racer. So if this does get messy with fallers and people getting hampered in behind, he'll be out of trouble in the front. And yeah, I thought around 40 to 1, you chuck it up.
He's actually 66 to 1 at the moment with Bet365s. Better again. More trouble, Pat.
Just after that.
Pat, we're doing your job for you.
Better job.
Pat, what do you like and what's the market saying?
Well, this is a race that there's plenty of life in this market yet. And what our team have done, we've just gone with the eye catchers for the Boodles, and there's none more so than the top 2, isn't there? Like Lark in the Morning, Batman Girac. They're much, much better than last time out would suggest. But we've seen them and we priced them accordingly. So I don't see them getting too much shorter in the market. And as a result, there's probably horses that the likes of Liari, who did win up at Musselburgh for us. Paul Nicholls was there on the Sunday, his first time he ever went to Musselburgh. And I said to him, I suppose you'd take on Sergino. He said, well, I'd rather not. I'll probably go for the Boodles. So he's a classy horse and he's a big price. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's, as I say, if Woodhoo, Liari, they come there into the race with a load of ones by the name. But what the market has done is just got with the eye catchers, and they're not going to get too much shorter. Lark in the Morning, do we ever see him run anymore? I don't know. But Batman Girac would be, of those 2, I was more impressed with his claims in a stronger race. But this market could turn on its head, really.
Just one thing to watch is 2 years ago, I think it was, Willie went searching for a rating for Gaelic Warrior for this race and got a rating of 129. It was a big gamble. There in January and February, he went looking for a rating for Batman Girac in England before he got one in Ireland. He got 133. So just when he's, and also Key de Bourbon is another one, where he went looking for an English rating. He got an English rating of 140. He doesn't even have a rating in Ireland yet. So just when you see that happening, it's a sign that they're maybe targeting a handicap at Cheltenham.
Okay. just on Liara, he loved the ground. The softer, the better for him. He travelled around Aintree in horrible ground beautifully, so that would be a positive. Okay, that's a look at the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. One more race to look at on the opening day of the Cheltenham Festival, and that, of course, is the National Hunt Chase. This is the race that Broadway Boy would definitely have won. But sadly, he's not running in the race because Willy and the team, have a team decision to go elsewhere. Willy, but I'll start with you here because I assume you'd have had a good think about this race in the lead up to it. Who do you like now?
I don't like Upwards Cross at all. I think he's a very quirky horse. I spoke to Derek Connor a bit about him the other week, and he's like, trying to fill you with confidence, but couldn't really see it myself. He's done very little on ratings, racing post ratings, or performed anywhere near a level of a horse that our horse has. Embassy Gardens obviously won twice, blew up last year. He's obviously the one to beat. Salvador Ziggy probably wants better ground. I think the race has fallen to bits really since Broadway Boy's been pulled out. I think my point was to Dad and our owner was we've 2 horses to beat in National Hunt Chase. We've probably 3 or 4 in the Brown Advisory. I think it's actually probably quite a weak race. If I had to pick one, it'd be Embassy Gardens. But I'm actually annoying myself now. I'd rather just pass the microphone on because I generally think it's a very, very winnable race. I really, really couldn't have Corbett's Cross. If you asked me to place my hard-earned money on him, I wouldn't want to back him. Embassy Gardens, yeah, maybe, not at 2-1. Salvador Zig, I don't think it's good enough. I think he wants decent ground. A lot of them aren't running. Yeah, Broadway Boy at 8-1. I mean, Olympic are our own horse, but we're going for the Brandon Rises. So I'll pass the microphone on because I'm getting upset.
Pass it on, because Steve knows that I've backed Broadway Boy ante-post for this race, so I'm broken-hearted. What's going to win, Steve?
I'd be more positive on Salvador Ziggy than what Willy is. I mean, he finished second in the Carry National off a mark of 150. Like he is a good horse. If he runs to the mid 150s in this, he'll win it. I'd be slightly worried about Embassy Gardens with how keen he ran in the Albert Bartlett when he pulled up last year. Corbett's Cross, I'd share the sentiments with Willy. I'd be slightly concerned with what he did last time and what he did in the Albert Bartlett. Salvador Ziggy, he's an experienced chaser. He's ran 4 times over fences, trained by Gordon Elliott, who obviously has a brilliant record in the race. Finished second in the Potemps last year, so he has Cheltenham Festival form. And he kind of did what he did with Galvin, so we got 3 quick runs into him between August and September. Won by a total of 25 lengths in total in those first 2 starts, and then second in the Kerry National off a mark of 150. You can completely forgive him his run in the American Grand National or whatever that was over there. I don't really know what they were doing there, but they've kept him fresh for this. He's 9-2 ante-post for this, and yeah, he'd probably be my bet on day 1.
Okay, Pat, what's your story here?
Well, normally my mantra is, wait till the day and have a bet. But what I would say, there's 11 entries in this race, and I could really just see there maybe just being 7 come the day. So if you do fancy one each way, I'd back him before the final decks. And by elimination, I agree with Willy that you can find fault in the front 3, classy though they are. Kilbeg King each way. Will Biddick has been booked for the ride for Anthony Honeyball. Just a solid horse. He's yet to win over fences, but he's got that. Run well, be placed. Maybe not good enough on the day, but I'd rather be taking my chances at, say, double figures first 3 than 8-1 first 2 on the day.
Okay, Gav, your summary of what, as Pat and everyone else has alluded to, is now thinned out a little bit.
Yeah, certainly Broadway Boy would have had a massive chance. Don't mind Steve with Salvatore Ziggy. Don't like him. If you can't do it in America, you can't do it in England.
What a form.
At least he's at Cheltenham though.
Yeah, I know, I'm only joking. I just don't think he's classy enough. I think the 2 favourites would be hard to beat. Definitely going for Embassy Gardens. Fair enough, he didn't perform well last year in the Bartlett, but the vibes are very strong. 2 very good performances. His jumping is fantastic. He's a beautiful sight over a fence. Corbett's Cross, when you look at him over a fence, he was sketchy in Nace. He was sketchy even the day he won in Fairyhouse. His jumping was okay in Leopardstown. He was unlucky the last day in Fairyhouse again, when you say he was brought down. But his jumping is just not as good as Embassy Gardens. Derek will be holding on to him because he's got lots of toe. Like last year, I'd say probably he won a 3-mile handicap hurdle in Fairyhouse, and I thought to myself, lovely, this is a horse for the Bartlett. And then a couple of weeks later, he won over 2 miles. He beat Found at 50. And then he ran in the Bartlett, and for the first time in his life, he was keen, but maybe the fact that he ran over 2 miles might have been the reason. So he has
Bad
loads of
training, what?
Sorry?
Bad training?
Well, it didn't do much good for the 3 miler anyway. But he has loads of toe. Derek will ride up for pace. But I just think Embassy Gardens is probably the bet of the day on Tuesday at 2-1, 9-4.
Yeah. I like Embassy Gardens as well. Not only I think he's a better jumper than Corbett's Cross, I think he's more likely to see out what is going to be a real test of stamina than Corbett's Cross for the reasons that you say about the toe that he has. Okay, just before we wrap up day one, I'm just going to go down the line and ask for your best selections on day one. Steve, your best selection on day one?
Salvador Ziggy in the National Hunt Chase.
Salvador Ziggy in the National Hunt Chase.
Lay Salvador Ziggy in the National Hunt Chase.
Okay, no Salvador Ziggy. Pat, what's yours on day one?
Chianti Classico in the Handicap.
Chianti Classico in the...
Lays Salvatore Ziggy to be placed in the National Hunt Chase. But I'll go for Embassy Gardens as the bet of the day on Tuesday.
You both nicked the ones that I wanted, but I'll go with Chianti Classico. I've been there for a long time. Okay, and that brings to a conclusion our Racing Weekly Cheltenham Festival preview day one. Many thanks to my guests. This, of course, is brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Lots more still to come.